tiny show breeders, and that's it. I mean, it's not like the pig industry is very big in Park County, Colorado. But out here, certainly, you know, there's definitely some risk, and there, you know, we've got what, 3 or 4 other major swine companies in the state of Colorado. I can't tell you whether they're infected or not, but you know, we want to make sure. But we have a lot of smaller producers as well out here in the counties. A lot of them aren't even involved in show pigs or anything. So I mean, there are some small producers in your county that aren't involved in showing, but do have sows at home, and you know, and they're probably diversified, so they probably got some other things that they're making money off of besides just those sows. But that's part of their money making program. And so you can't just say, well, we only have 5 sow breeders, or you know, 5 pig breeders in Sedgwick County, because we have others that are just not involved with 4-H at all. If we can protect some of those guys, that would be good. But that's the reasoning, and it's not good reasoning, but that's the reason why it took so long. Is that first, for a long time, we were just hoping that it was just seaboard, and that they, you know, and they were doing a good job of keeping it under control, and that was it. Then we could see that no, this is really moving a lot faster than this. But it took the state vet a little bit to decide how far he wanted to go. He was watching the other states to see what they were going to do, and then this was the decision he came up with. And this decision was on March 13th, where they put out this recommendation.
So back to the whole cleaning issue.
Yes.
Okay, at fair, we've got 60 hogs in these kennels, and you know, they're hens. They take them to go wash them. We have a wash bay. There's crap all in there. Okay, wet manure, wet concrete. Okay, how much more is this going to cost these kids a day? Because I know they're going to have to clean their pen. Are they going to have to take what shavings they have in there and dispose of them and put new shavings back in there?
Well, and that's another reason for making a terminal show, is that, okay, you know, we're basically saying we're probably going to see it at the fair, and it's probably going to go through the fair, and we're going to just call it good at that point. And so, you know what, you're gonna, each individual family is gonna need to make sure that they're cleaning stuff before they take it home. But at the fair,
no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those 4 days at fair.
Yeah, you do it just like you normally would. That's my personal opinion.
Okay.
I don't think you could do it good enough.
Yeah, if there's a pig there that's got it, they're all gonna get it.
And they're gonna be there. I mean, they're gonna be there.
Right.
I
So
know that. I know it. But and then another question I have is, okay, so terminal, we get these hogs on this truck to go whichever way they go.
right.
But then we're gonna have 4 or 5 hogs still sitting down at the fairgrounds ready to go to different meat plants. And who's to say they're really gonna go to that meat plant? Who's to say that somebody's not gonna come get it? Oh yeah, we're taking it to the meat plant, and they take it home.
You know what? At that point, we're not going to be perfect. We've done what we can do. We're not going to be perfect. Those people are taking their own risks and doing it that way. I mean, I suppose you could hire security and follow the dang pigs everywhere, but I wouldn't go that far. I would say we've done what we can do. If one person takes the gill home and spreads it in their little area, I'm sorry that, you know, I'm not happy about that.
But that was their choice, and they did it at their own risk.
Yes.
So just as if everyone else is coming to the fair. This whole deal is everything at your own risk.
Then why have the terminal then? You know?
Because that's 1 instead of 30.
But one can spread it to 30 in a matter of minutes, right?
At the fair, but once it gets home, we've got some hope of it stopping there. I mean, you know, there's a certain point of personal responsibility that you have to get to. You know, if you decide that this is what you want to do, and then this is, you know, we're going to declare this a terminal show, and this is why, and it's a pretty darn good reason why we're declaring it a terminal show, then you know what? It's a learning experience for the kids. I'm sorry, I know you want to take this pig to the state fair, but this pig is going to be the county fair pig, and that pig is going to be the state fair pig, and hopefully we can keep state fair pigs healthy at home while the county fair pigs at the county. And then, you know, and then the people who buy the pigs at the sale, you know, they know that that's been a terminal show, that the kids have had to sacrifice some to make that a terminal show. Hopefully they won't ruin that by taking those pigs home. And whoever buys, you know, floors the pigs and buys all of them, hopefully they're not going to spread it. But at some point there's got to be some personal responsibility, because I can tell you, I don't have enough hours in the day to police the whole thing.
Well, if you make a terminal, well, couldn't you put that, they'd have to go to slaughter, they can't go home.
You can say anything you want.
I think that's the definition of terminal. If you make a terminal, they get their head chopped off.
Yeah, they have to go to slaughter. But what I'm saying is that, I mean, there are ways that I can make sure that they go to slaughter. And I've followed trucks to the slaughter plant before to make sure that that suspect, for whatever disease I was concerned about, did get killed on that day. I'm not going to follow the truck to the slaughter plant from every county fair. I'm not going to seal the trucks, I don't think, unless somebody tells me to, and then I'm going to get not very much sleep. Yeah, I'm going to be busy. I'm not going to get a lot of sleep for a few weeks there. But as far as I know, I'm not going to be sealing the trucks from the county fairs to go to slaughter. So it is going to be
The
honor
fair board
system.
responsibility.
Yeah.
And the livestock, this
Well,
committee.
And the other
This decision was made without the sale committee even being notified about it. It's their sale. I think they should have been notified before it was even voted.
Yeah.
Well, then you guys can go take care of all the sale and figure it out.
The other thing I think from a Colorado perspective, and I've watched a lot of county fairs in my time. We live in Colorado, we don't live in Iowa. We do not have an abundance of buyback buyers. So in other words, what that does, and I will put this into perspective because I had a family from Garden County, Nebraska last year call me to ask what the market price of hogs was at that time, because their buyback buyer was giving them 50 cents a pound when hogs were at 80 or 90 cents. I've never met a buyback buyer that's going to give a kid. Colorado State Fair is one of the prime examples. Colorado State Fair's buyback's pitiful. You take hogs to Colorado State Fair and you don't make sale, you give those hogs away by the time they throw everything on there. So as a buyback, and I'm not saying this against buyback buyers or anything, I'm just wanting everybody to understand. Hogs right now are wonderful. I shipped sows the other day and got 90 cents a pound on sows. So, I mean, the PEDv virus has treated me well because it's made me be able to ship sows for 90 cents a pound. However, hogs are at $1.20, whatever they may be by the end of the summer. And families are looking at that going, well, $1.20 on a 250-pound hog, yeah, we're not going to lose too much money. You're not going to get $1.20, or at least I don't think you're going to, unless you find somebody that is just absolutely willing to. And that I guess that is my biggest issue with making the county fairs terminal, especially this late in the game, is you have now taken kids that have already purchased their hogs and made their budget and sat down like a businessman, like we raised them to do, and you have made them do that. And I understand then you throw things in like a terminal thing, and I think it's a great learning experience. I think it's taught the whole hog industry, we were slacking on biosecurity, whether it be the commercial level, the show pig breeders, whoever it may be. We were slacking on a biosecurity level. However, now you take a kid that's dumped $400, $500, $600 because the day of $100 and $150 show pigs is no longer. So you've taken a kid that's bought $400 pig, invested $300, $400, $500 in show feed into this pig, and he realizes I may get 60 cents a pound for this pig. I'm not going to take this pig to the county fair. I'm going to take this pig to the brush sale barn, get $1.20, and cut my losses. And now you've just taken a 60 pig county fair to 30 pigs.
That's a business decision that kid made, as far as, you know, a learning situation. And that sounds cruel and harsh, but, you know, that's that. And I will also tell you that because of the PEDv virus, there are not a whole lot of pigs. The commercial guys are screaming, trying to keep their slaughter plants running. And so I would hope that the floors would be a little higher than that as far as the buyback pigs. You know, obviously I can't guarantee anything, but I know at the state fair, I was talking to one of the reps from Seaboard, and you know they were, and I didn't know what the floor at the state fair last year was, but you know they were talking like they wanted to try to get in on that, and they were saying they were buying a lot of fair pigs where, you know, a lot of the big guys didn't even want the fair pigs. There for a while, we couldn't get fair pigs into any slaughter plant, reputable slaughter plant, because they didn't want them. And 4-H has done a really good job of cleaning up some of the meat quality assurance, you know, parts of that, of the reason why they didn't want them. One of the reasons, anyway. But now I'm thinking you might see, I'm hoping, you'll see a little better price on the fair pigs, just because there aren't any pigs. You know, people for a long time were asking me, well, what's new in your world, Richanne? And I would tell them, if you haven't bought your Easter ham yet, you're going to be shocked when you go try to buy your Easter ham, you know. And back in November, I was like, you need to buy your Easter ham now. And they would look at me, and nobody followed my advice, but they should have. So, you know, I had all this insider information, and nobody was even taking it. So, but I see exactly what you're saying. I will tell you that I showed dairy, so I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for the meat guys, just saying. So, you know, I was lucky if, well, actually, I didn't ever sell anything at the fair, truthfully. So, I'm sorry to say that, but I think that you chalk it up as a learning experience and chalk it up as shit happens. And, you know, in my job, there's a lot of shit happens that I thought I'd tell when I walk.
Producer, how do you feel about this?
Well, first of all, on your show pig, you're gonna make a decision. This pig goes to county fair or state fair. You wanna take it home and breed it, you keep it home and breed it. I mean, you can't go win this show and then take it home and breed it. Everything's wonderful without the risk and the personal decisions that you make. You gotta be responsible for that. Did you make that choice, taking it home, doing it? Here again, everybody's talking about the 2 or 3 hogs. Some of us got a lot more money invested than just the 2 or 3, the $400, $500 show pig. Got a $1,000 4-H budget wrapped up. We've got a lot more money than that wrapped up in it. It don't seem to, and then we've been up and down on this 4-H deal forever. We had PERS, we bred for, or not PERS, pseudo-rabies, and we bled hogs, and no, and also now we're gonna do it, now we're not gonna have a community weigh-in, we're gonna run around the tag around. So it goes up and down, 1 minute nothing, next minute, oh well, no big deal. We didn't break with it, not a big deal. Same deal, you're talking $1,000, $2,000 in your 4-H pig budget. Some of us got a lot more money invested in it. And like you said, done the buyback, the quality, the hell, when you did do the buyback, packers wouldn't even talk to you. Don't even, then them guys come out and say, well, we want the fair tags in them so we can identify them. The guy said, no, you don't even want to show up with the tags because you don't want them. Well, and then they complain you take a hell of a risk on the buyback. You take these pigs that have been pay lean and fed all this stuff that are lean and mean and just beat the hell out of each other. You dump them in with some other kid that's got some nice little fat hog. You just beat the hell out of them. You're taking a hell of a risk. You put them on a semi, you haul them wherever they go to make sure they're terminal. All the ifs, ands, and buts about that. You talk about making it a terminal show. If you don't have any teeth in your program to make sure it is, same deal. The 1 or 2 that's going to cheat the system are going to screw it up for the rest of them. The other 98% that follow it said goodbye to that good gilt that they could have bred. Someone else does it, screws up the thing, it spreads around for everything else. I mean, it just seems like we're worried about the little 1 or 2 deals and not worried about the whole part of the industry. I mean, I don't know, just a lot of things that just.
Do you think it should be terminal or no?
Yeah, it should, but if the state don't put any teeth into it, how do you enforce it? Same deal, you have 1 or 2 guys that do back deal or deal it. Yeah, it's going to DNL, and it doesn't go to DNL.
Would making it terminal, you think, help keep it off your farm?
There you go. I mean, just because you still got the other chances of it being spread. I mean, and if someone doesn't follow it and it's not 100%, you still got the same chances of getting it spread. But like I say, you guys are arguing that, well, we're going to take this big county fair, state fair, and bring it home a breeder. Well, you're trying to hit all 3 of the things, and sometimes you got to make those decisions that this is what's more important, my biosecurity of her for next year, or going for this trophy at this fair or that fair. I mean, that's kind of got to make those personal decisions too before you.
And the perception, I think, too, that we held off on this decision as a fair board.
No, she answered that question. Yes, they didn't know, so you guys didn't know.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
I
no.
think that everybody got that,
Yeah,
we weren't
yeah.
holding off to, you know.
No.
We would never want to basically screw the 4-H kids. We want them to bring their animals to fair. We were not trying to make
that
it
was our
harder
fault.
for our kids. We don't.
Well, I'm just glad you guys sat down and, you know, I mean, that you brought, you know, Mrs. Lomkin in, Dr.
Right.
Lomkin. Because, you know, at least now, you know, everyone knows, you
Right.
know.
So what do you think?
What do I think? I don't think, I
You
think
think we
it's a
should?
great,
You think we
it's a
should?
great effort. But in the end, I don't think Doris, who raised 3 hogs, I don't think it's gonna keep her from not getting it by making it terminal. I think she's gonna walk around that barn. I think Kelly has a good chance to walk around that barn and take it home. Whether it's terminal or non-terminal, I don't think it's gonna make a bit of difference for those guys.
Now, Kyle, the people that work at Seaboard, are they not supposed to be at the fair?
No, we're not supposed to run pigs.
You're not.
Unless we have three
Yeah,
nights.
it's like-
But if you have 3 nights, but there's a lot of people that walk around out there that work for Seaboard and.
But you can go from Seaboard to the fair, that's not.
Yeah.
You just got 3 days for going to the fair.
No, I said then they go
Yeah.
home and then they go to work the next day.
No,
Yes,
we
we
can't.
can,
But you know, we see that.
but if they get caught.
But I mean, that's not, you know, Seaboard people can take it from Seaboard to,
Yeah.
you know, and there's nothing
Is-
against that.
Is Seaboard biosecurity protocol, you clearly have to shower in, I mean, that's,
Yeah, and
clear.
we're supposed to shower.
do you have to shower out?
Yeah.
Are you required to?
Yeah.
Do they do it all the
Yeah,
time?
they can sit them and shower with them, but.
An hour ago.
Well, I worked at the farm at Kansas State University, and
Barns. You guys know how many head we've lost? Does anybody know? 700,000. 700,000.
In the last year.
And still
Just
losing.
not even a year. We've got farms that have had this disease since November, and they're still running 80% mortality.
So feeding it back's not doing.
Some, in
No.
some farms it's working.
We do feedback. We don't feedback, we feed.
But it's not
not
doing a whole, I mean, it's not.
No,
It's
it
all-
just depends on how the virus is, and some farms are doing well, some farms aren't. We've got 12,000 South farms that it's never gonna leave, and then we got this Delta virus in there now, and that came from Asia. So, you know, we're fighting this, and I feel for Kelly, because he's got a unit, about 2 miles from your house, that's got PED. If it gets into him, it will wipe him out, he can't take the financial hit that we can. And that's what you guys that raise half the sows are the ones I'm more worried about. Because I don't want to see you guys go through this, because emotionally, when it does to the people who work on those sow farms, it's horrible. Having to euthanize pigs as soon as they're born, it's not fun. And you're never going to get it out of your sight. Once it is in there, it's in there.
And I would like to say that 4-H is a learning program. And how many of you 4-H kids sitting here listening to this do not want to help stop this virus? And if by making our show a terminal show 1 year could possibly play a little bit of a part in stopping this, wouldn't you be on board with that? 4-H is about integrity and taking care of your fellow man and your country and,
Your industry.
you know, head, hearts, hand, and health, the whole pledge thing. Think about it, kids. This is serious for these people and these people. And if this is one thing that you could do as a 4-H member to maybe help just a little bit this year, is it not worth the effort?
You guys that have the show pigs, it's not gonna affect them hardly at all. I mean, we give it to them weekly, and they'll go out, feed for maybe 3 or 4 days, and then they're fine. But it's the sows that is going to just totally decimate, and that's the ones that these guys like Kelly and you that raise these pigs, that's what I wanna see, because it is just across the board, just kicking our butts.
Well, and personally, I'll just speak on my own behalf, but I have 2 show barns that are in the process of breaking as we speak. One in LaPlata County, Colorado, and one in Yuma County, Colorado. The day that it breaks in David's barn from jackpotting or whatever, I'm not gonna stop jackpotting, because I feel like I have kids that love to do it and it would break their heart, so I'm gonna take the risk. And I don't have any kids myself, so none of the pigs that I'm taking to a jackpot come back to my house. However, my trailer does, my pickup does, my clothes do. So the day that David breaks, this is my biggest thing, is A, the immunity factor, and also the factor of, okay, if it's not close to me, I live in the Sandhills, Nebraska, so unless cattle can get it, I'm pretty well set. And there's not very many hog trucks that run Highway 26 between Scottsbluff, Nebraska and Oval. So I'm fairly safe. But the day it breaks in David's barn, especially the fact that there's no true proof of how long one can shed for, I'm not gonna stay out of David's barn. I'm not gonna stay out of Blockwitz's barn, I'm not gonna stay out of any barn that's bought hogs from me, or I sell feed to. So in other words, at that point in time, I have to make the decision of, okay, do I infect myself? And I know of numerous people across the show pig industry, especially boar studs, for the sole factor of we're getting into the heat of AI breeding season right now for fall babies. I know numerous boar studs that have infected themselves. And they haven't used the intestine feedback method, they just used the manure feedback. I don't think there's enough scientific proof behind it for me to take the risk, but at the same time, the day David breaks with it, I'm gonna go home and do it right now when I have no babies in my farrowing house and I've got sows that are a couple months away from
We
farrowing.
have a boar stud that sits right in the middle of this mess, and it has not caught it. The reason is it's got biofilters. And the security on that thing is just like going into Fort Knox. The one thing that I think on the national and state level that scares the hell out of us is if these three get in. And see, there's three of these viruses. The PEDv virus is not one virus. Dr. Tomky can tell you, there's three of them. There's three strains of this virus. But the one that scares the living crap out of us is foot and mouth. If we're getting these in this easy, we get foot and mouth in, it's game over for you guys even with the cattle. Because you won't be able to give your cattle away.
I try really hard not to
It'll kill
think
our
about that.
export. It'll just flat kill our export. And you guys just be giving your cows away. Then you got nothing to feed. I mean, you're gonna have to destroy your herds. I mean, it's gonna just get worse. And that's where at the national level, they've got to be starting to do something about how is this crap getting in the United States.
It would help
Is
us
it
with a bit how
bioterrorism?
it got in the
I
United
mean,
States.
it could be going across bioterrorism because it's easy to get in. Send it through the feed. Blood plasma, that's where we think that it came in some this Delta virus.
Is that how they think Seaboard got it? I mean, they're
No,
they're
what
technically
I've been
pointing
told
fingers,
from
but
mine is that, you ever heard of StayFact?
yep.
Okay, it says it's made in the United States, but if you read it, it's sourced in China. From what we gather, it came in vitamin packs, fed in your lactation feed.
That's why I told her.
Because at all of our farms down there, first place it broke, Maryland, and they broke quick. Like that 5,000 sow farm has over, 65 crates to a barn in the room. It broke the whole thing in 3 days. I mean,
They were
just
losing like
that fast.
1,000 some pigs a
They were
day.
losing almost 3,000 to 4,000 pigs a week. A week.
But don't get me wrong, I mean, if making this show's terminal would help, there's no question.
Well, it's not gonna hurt anything to do for us. But the bird strain, the ones that like I said, the ones that I'm worried about are you two guys. Because this is your livelihood. You can't take the hit that we can take. Because it's gonna just clobber.
But if that's the case, cancel the show. I mean, these guys shouldn't be walking around there. Anyone that is in contact should not even come. We shouldn't even have a show.
I mean, that's.
Really, I'm being honest.
Well, and if you're a hog producer and you wanna keep it out, then those guys aren't gonna go to the show.
Yeah, they aren't.
In the weeks when we were really hot with it, the 4 weeks ago, when we first rode with it, and I mean, I'm handling pigs that have diarrhea all over them. I mean, it's gonna get under my nails and everything. Even taking a thorough shower, I was careful. I know not everybody does this, but if you have any integrity or whatever you wanna call it, I didn't go to the feed store. I didn't go anywhere. I went a few places, but I was careful. I wore stuff that I didn't wear to the farm, stuff like that. I mean, every little bit can help. I mean, Seaboard, like Kyle said, I mean, we can take the hit. I mean, all the farms are positive except for the boar stud in the whole company. But if we can keep a few other guys, negative, it's worth it.
I think not having a show at this point when the kids have already bought their pigs would
Yeah, that would
be
be
horribly
nice.
detrimental to those kids. But if having a terminal show lets them show their pigs, sell their pigs, at least they have that. Because we didn't get to this until our April meeting. We didn't get that memo till March, mid-March, late March, when we got that memo. This is the best we could do with what information we had.
And I know it's completely on the fair board, it's the fair board decision, so this is gonna be how many county fairs in the state of Nebraska, or the state of Colorado, sorry, have made their shows terminal if they weren't previously? I know there are some counties that were already terminal. Chase County Fair and Imperial in Nebraska, its rule book reads, we are terminal just because nobody's changed the rules since pseudorabies and brucellosis. And I know when I showed it, Chase County Fair, I took gilts out of that county fair every year, and so the terminal rule was just a little piece of ink on paper.
You really shouldn't tell me things like that.
So I'm just trying to provide a light.
It's gonna happen.
So my question is I have talked to numerous families in counties for the sole factor of, I have numerous families that I have sent gilts to that I plan to get back at the end of the show season. And I know a lot of people in this room may think that's absolutely crazy, but I am also blessed to have 2 facilities where I can isolate at one. And if they prove that they can shed for a year, then maybe I decide, you know what, it's not really worth it. But that's my biggest question is how many counties have actually done?
And I don't really have an answer for you on that. I haven't done a poll. And I mean, right now is, because this wasn't released until March 13th, all the counties currently are having this discussion. Truly the only one I know fully off the top of my head is Weld County, and they have chosen not to make theirs terminal. They were going to cancel their breeding show until I figured out that they only had, I think they only had 13 pigs entered in the breeding show, and 11 of those also had market hogs. So they figured at that point, what difference does it make if 11 of the 13 also have market hogs?
Well, and I must also say, just for everybody that doesn't understand this, Weld County Fair is the largest county fair hog show in the state of Colorado. They show more hogs at Weld County Fair than they do at Colorado State Fair, by almost double. They had 550-ish last year. Colorado State Fair had 300, 350-ish. Just for everybody to understand.
Yeah, well, and that's where I showed dairy was at the Weld County Fair, so I'm rather intimately familiar with them. But yeah, they made the decision not to make a terminal, but they also don't have any large commercial facilities in Weld County because, really ran off National Hog. But, so, they made that decision there. Out here is kind of a different deal because we do have some more, not just the big commercial guys, but we also have some smaller guys that aren't involved in the show industry that are producing some pigs too. I don't know. It's a tough decision. It's a decision that each county has to make for their own, their own group. I think that Kate Carson is probably going to go terminal. Last I knew, they hadn't made that final decision yet. And some of the other counties are kind of wait to see what their surrounding counties do. So it's one of those things where they're kind of waiting to see how much flack these guys get to try to decide whether it's worth it for them to take the hit. But I don't know. I think that you need to decide. You need to decide for your own county. You need to decide not just because this is what the state vet's saying, but because you think that this is the right thing for your county. Yes, sir.
That goes back to Dave's question: is it going to help or not? And you said, "Well, county, well, we should, but not because there's the small fire." But we've had this in 4-H forever, ever since I first started. This is what the state says. This is what 4-H state 4-H says. County agent says, "Well, it's your fair, do what you want, but we should do what the fair board says." And just everybody bounces off each other so that whoever else is the bad guy. Well, if the fair board's going to decide it's going to make them mad, well, the state vet's office isn't mad because they didn't mandate it, but yet they're going to tell you that it should, and it just bounces the ball back and forth.
I will tell you that on March 11th, I called the state vet's office and I said, "You guys got to do something. You've got to come up with some kind of a recommendation because I don't want my extension agents and my fair boards to take a hit without having some kind of backup from the state vet's office." Whether or not they said they should be terminal, whether they said they have to be terminal, or whether they said we're not going to require them to be terminal, or we're not going to, because what they were doing is they were saying just that. Well, we're going to leave it up to the counties. We're not going to make any kind of a recommendation. And I was like, no, that's not fair from the state vet's office to just say that, because at that point you have counties that do have some swine production that are trying to move against the tide, so to speak, and don't have any backing. Now at least they have the backing that says, no, the state vet's office is recommending that we make these terminal. They didn't go so far as to say we're forcing it to be terminal. They have the ability, they have the authority to do that, but they chose not to utilize that authority. They wouldn't have necessarily been going out on a limb, but they have not used that authority for a very long time. But if you remember, they have used that authority during a vesicular stomatitis outbreak. So during a vesicular stomatitis outbreak, and that would not have affected you guys out here probably, but that would have affected Weld County, and then Weld County and the state vet's office have said in the past during vesicular stomatitis that any county that had vesicular stomatitis had to have a veterinarian on site and had to have each and every animal that was susceptible to vesicular stomatitis examined before they were allowed off the trailer. Some counties do that anyway, but that was a pretty big deal at Weld County, because there's a whole heck of a lot of animals arriving there in a very short period of time. And during my showing days, which were admittedly quite some time ago, but it backed some trailers up quite a ways, and they had 3 or 4 veterinarians on site, one pretty much for each kind of livestock, and it still backed trailers up. So they have used that authority in the past. It's been quite a while. They chose not to say absolutely no, it has to be terminal. I keep thinking there's one state out there, I think it's Wisconsin, that has canceled all swine shows. Period. I'm not going to guarantee that, but I'm thinking there's at least one state out there that has. I know there's several states out there that the state vet has said that all the swine shows will be terminal, which pretty much cancels all the jackpots. So there are some precedents out there, but again, where's Park County and Gilpin County, and they probably don't need to go terminal because they don't have anybody breeding hogs at 8,000 feet or higher.
So according to Miltech's recommendation or report, I guess, or whatever you want to say his statement was, whatever that is.
Yeah.
If PED shows up at the county fair, it's reportable. So the county fairgrounds, according to their premise ID, is going to report that to USDA through the local vet, whoever their local vet is.
Yes.
State vet's office.
Correct. And then I have to come up with a plan.
Yeah, and then step 2 of that plan is, we don't know yet, obviously, but it's, as of Friday, it's a reportable disease. If it shows up at the fairgrounds, it's reported to state vet's office.
Yes.
Okay.
What if our fairgrounds get it before fair?
Still reportable, right?
It's
No, I'm not talking about that.
It is still reportable. And we've had that conversation because there are a lot of fairgrounds that are used for jackpots.
No, we've got hogs out at the fairgrounds where they are housed.
They're housed at the fairgrounds
until fair.
Well, that would be another reason for having a terminal, because then everything that comes in is going to get it. If you have a jackpot come in prior to the fair and you don't have hogs housed at the fair, so Logan County is going to be my example here, and I've talked with them about it. They're going to make the jackpot put a pretty good sized bond down and say, if you want to get your bond back, this is going to be clean, as in no organic material left, before you leave, or you're not going to get your bond back, and then they're going to have to hire somebody to come in and clean it. And that's going to be a challenge. Whether or not we can get it clean enough to stop it from spreading, we don't know, but that's at least something we can do to try to make the jackpots at least get it clean before the fair comes in. Where you have hogs at the fair, housed at the fair, again, I would say that's more reason to have it terminal, because if those hogs get it, then it's definitely in your fairgrounds and you're not going to be able to clean it up before everybody else shows up.
And that's what's funny is I spoke to the guy in charge of the livestock at Logan County, and they aren't going to make their show terminal. He said they did do that with their jackpot deals. They put the clause in the contract. They're not allowed to show on the dirt like they used to, but they decided that but that was their own decision. But I called and just talked to them and got their idea. They decided that with the amount of people that show up to the fair anyways, that they probably didn't think, and as late as it was, that they needed to do anything, which was fine. They can do that.
Yeah, and that's, have you talked to, so you're a better source of information than I am. Have you talked to any of the other counties?
No, I just called that one because that was the biggest one that was close enough to us.
I know Phillips and Yuma County have not done anything.
They haven't made the decision, or they have chosen not to make a terminal?
They haven't made the decision.
I can tell you now from Phillips County, our livestock committee met last week, and we decided, I don't think so. It sounds like everything is not once it gets to the bigger pig age, it's probably not gonna be a big concern. After what's come out in the last week here and up until Friday, the Fair Board's meeting right now, when we get done, I'm gonna call and say, from what I've heard, and as the Livestock Committee Chairman, I don't think it's a bad idea for us to consider going terminal show. We've always been, well, not always, the last 2 years we've been terminal sale, but from what I'm hearing right now, I think I'll probably call and say, I'm stepping on my committee's toes probably, but I will probably say, I think it's probably a good idea for us to go terminal show.
Platte County went terminal a couple weeks ago in Durango.
And on the way up here, but I heard
They're terminal, La Plata County's terminal forever.
After they did.
It is not just this year, they're terminal forever. And I know I have actually 2 families in La Plata County that are talking about showing in a different county for that reason. But they went terminal forever, which I don't understand at all, but yeah.
See, we're just talking about this year.
Yeah, this
Maybe
year.
next year. We left it in there that it could be reversed.
Well, with the manure, say we get it out here this year, and they shit everywhere. What's gonna stop that next year then? We can't get that cleaned up probably good enough to stop it, say, if it's in the manure, we wanna stay there in the manure?
You guys show on dirt too.
Well, and yeah, I'm thinking, I was actually here swabbing your pigs' noses last summer, so, you know.
My question was, so then are we, just being a parent of a pig first, kid?
Yeah.
Should we get geared up, in the years to come, that it will probably, the way it's going now, be a terminal sale no matter what? I think that's probably more of a.
Yeah, and that's gonna be, I would hope not, I sincerely hope not, I sincerely hope that this is a 1 or 2 year kind of deal, although okay, so my veterinary soul is totally with Dr. Tomky on the whole pigs should be terminal show, but I can understand the other side too, so, because I always got to take my dairy heifers home. But dairy heifers are not pigs. So, to answer your original question though, I would hope that given a year, that between doing a really good job of cleaning it and giving a year, that would eradicate the virus from the premises. One of the things that we talked about, we had a meeting with the extension agents, actually where this was brought out, was that, if you're showing on dirt inside for your pigs, and you're showing on dirt outside for your horses, trade the dirt. And then the dirt outside is gonna have a chance to dry out, get the sunlight on it. Sunlight is amazing. UV light will kill most viruses and bacteria, and it's really good stuff. And then that'll help. Because, the dirt in that big arena should never have seen pigs. So that should be clean. And if you just trade it, then you don't have to buy a bunch of new dirt. I know that's going to be a lot of bobcat work, which is fun, actually, unless you have to do it every day. But it's something that you can do. Now, as far as your panels there in the barn, and I can't remember if those are actually permanently attached or if they're movable. So again, move them out to the show rack, spray them off really well with a hot seat. If you've got time, you don't necessarily even need to disinfect them, because if you've got time, you can lean them up against the wall and let the UV light work on it, as long as you get that organic material off with the hot seat first. But to be better, you can spray some disinfectant on it as well. And that's one of the fallacies, is people think, well, okay, I'm using disinfectant, therefore, it's good. No, it's gotta be spick and span before you put the disinfectant on it. Because if you can see organic material, that disinfectant's not gonna get through that organic material. So that's one of the things, I think people rely a little bit too much on disinfectants and not enough on just true cleaning. And that's one of my pet peeves with the human medical profession, is that they rely too much on disinfectant and antibiotics and not on actually getting things clean. Okay, questions?
No more pig sales out there then?
What?
No more pig sales out there then?
No more pig sales out. That was not our decision.
Huh?
That's not our decision.
That's a question. Any commissioners sitting here? All three of them.
We'll get somebody else on the hot seat now.
think
if
the
it's,
only question was for them.
if it's done on the concrete and you go in and power wash it and extract it, they'd be alright, correct?
Should be.
As long as they stayed
Or
on
you
the
can treat
concrete.
it with, lime, like, it's nasty, but that's what we're doing to our farrowing rooms, we take a big insecticide sprayer in there, and we spray, we dilute, like masonry lime, cause that, I'm guessing that it dries it, like, once the lime dries it, it just like sucks the moisture out of everything, and that's what the virus.
Is there any success with like Mitrol or Mistral or any of those powders thus far?
I don't think.
So you guys are using just straight masonry lime?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
only
and
thing we
we-
found out that kills it.
And they've become
Changes the
negative,
pH
their Swifter tests have been coming back negative
Before the
after.
lime. No, that's before the
Well,
lime.
but I mean, after 5 weeks, cause 5 weeks ago it broke, they infected all their sows with it right away. So they all got it, they killed all their pigs for 3 weeks straight, they just euthanized them. And now they're being able to let pigs live now.
So far, we have 13-day-old pigs with no sign of diarrhea.
Are they still on the sow?
Yes, oh yeah.
So you guys are leaving babies on the sow?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because I've talked to guys that have said they've taken 10-day-old pigs that have gotten infected.
We originally
and
did, like, when we very first started showing signs of breaking, or, the original plan was the first farm got it up here, this isn't counting Willow Green, but the little group of 6 sow farms up here. The first farm they figured out was positive. So they decided, they put together a schedule, and we're gonna inoculate this farm this day, and what they do is they wean us down to 10 days. Cause but that's about the age of pig that can survive, or, do okay out there, out the south, but, and then that was that 10-day deal.
so even like Synergize, Tetrol.
Okay, what we do is we wash the room, and this is how clean you have to get it. We are scrubbing, people are scrubbing the walls, the feeders, everything is getting scrubbed pretty much with steel wool. Just to get, like, how, like, metal after a while gets like a biofilm on it? We have to get that biofilm off. And then, once the room's clean, that way we come in with Agrafene and, thoroughly disinfect it, like with one of those Canon foamers. So, it goes everywhere, but, then usually we let it sit overnight, let it dry, and hit it again with Synergize, and then let it dry again. And then that's when we're doing our Swiffer test. But we're only Swiffer testing just the heat mats for now, cause that's a good place, that's a good place where the pigs are.
And then they come back and the line.
Yeah, and then we do the lime after that whole process.
Are you just leaving the lime sit?
Yeah, it just stays on there, once it's dry, we can load it with sows.
But, okay, so remember, guys, they're gonna load those with sows right away, and those are inside, and those are inside buildings, so there's no sunlight, and your humidity level is gonna be higher in those farm buildings. Whereas I'm talking about, out here at your fairgrounds, where, where the pigs are held, that's an open barn, so your humidity is not gonna be as high. And you're not gonna be loading it right away again. So if you clean it right away and just let it dry and sit for those months, like you were talking about, then that will help. But, but I guess I can't promise anything. I would hope that letting it sit, getting it out in the sunlight is gonna go ahead and kill it, but I guess I can't promise anything.
It's all in the cleaning, because we've been preached that, it's all in the cleaning, just getting that organic material off. Because once if you get the organic material off and you expose it to the whatever, Agrafene or Synergize, it works. It's just getting it clean, it's hard.
Yeah.
We've been putting in 12, 14-hour days every day. Plus we have contract workers that Seaport had to hire, to help with the cleaning. And so that's the biggest thing, is clean.
There's a lot of people in that industry, they're not saying if, it's just when,
It's when you get PEDv,
and I think there needs to be education out there for, pig producers to maybe look at exposing while they're not farrowing, because then they have a chance of getting those sows immunity, before they get into that farrowing process, because if they get that virus in their farrowing barns, it's gonna be very difficult for them to get that out of it.
Yeah, that's part of why we euthanize the babies right away. Like you said, the pre-wean mortality is 100% on those new babies, or 90 to 100%. So they're gonna die anyway. So what we're doing is euthanizing them and that drops that virus it's been here almost a year, so these companies and producers and stuff are learning different ways to cope with it, but, and the other thing, those chronic farms where they can't get it out is, and it's not like a proven thing or anything, but what, like our boss or whatever, he's thinking that, you know, maybe they're just not getting it clean enough, you know what I mean, like, and those bigger farms, the bigger they are, the harder it is to clean, I mean, you have more surface area where that stuff can hide, or, you know, harbor itself, but,
What are you guys doing with your slurry off your barns since you broke?
oh, in the pit, it just goes out to the, I mean, like we have big lagoons, you know.
What
Our
go-
pits just drain, we have like a drainage, it's just a big, all the hogs have a pit underneath them essentially.
And they just go out to it goes out to a
It just
lagoon.
goes out to a lagoon.
And it's just an EPA operating lagoon. I mean, it's not pumped out and spread on the fields or anything.
They do, and I don't know if, since PEDv, I don't know, we haven't heard really, have we heard anything about, they haven't pumped ours, I mean, but they only do that every so often, but.
Down in Phillips County or Yuma County, they pump those regularly in the spring.
So that's
There's no
another
hogs
risk.
down there, so chance to get spread. I guess if you're gonna put it on, I'd inject it straight out with the drag line.
When are we gonna have an answer?
I'm assuming you're not directing that to me.
Anybody answer?
What are you looking for an answer for, Todd? What answer?
Are you going terminal or are you not?
Well, the vote, the April vote, it was a terminal show. I think our problem was we had the definition of a terminal show in our meeting, but we called it a terminal sale. We labeled it incorrectly, I guess you could say, so we'll have to address that. But the definition of what we had was called a terminal show. Was what we voted
Which
for.
means everything that shows up.
Everything that comes to the fairgrounds goes on a truck.
So now are you thinking about changing that?
That will have to come up for a vote at the May meeting. If somebody wants to try and reverse it, they can try and reverse it. But that was the
So we're
vote.
gonna put it off till May. Like we put everything else off half the time, we tabled it until the next month.
I don't
Yeah,
think we have
from
enough
my
fair board
standpoint,
members here
I
right
need
now.
an answer fairly quick, because I've got a guilt that I'm trying to do something with, and if that is not
Then
gonna
Aaron
work,
can
I've gotta
probably,
back up and do something.
if there's a member that wants to, I suppose, they could put it out there that they'd like to reverse the motion to have not have a terminal show. And if somebody seconds it, then they could vote, we could have another vote if there's enough votes to reverse the terminal show. But the motion was to have a terminal show. It was passed, correct? It was passed. I'm not trying to, but that was what was in my notes.
Of the 5 members that was there, it was voted for. There were 6 members total with me that I can't vote unless it's tiebreaker. So the 5 members voted to do a terminal show.
So we'd have to have somebody put a motion out to reverse that motion, or what passed. They'd have to get a second, and they'd have to, and put it to a vote again.
Well, okay, so what do you guys think? Do you guys feel you should do it for 1 year? Do you think you should not do it at all?
And the vote was, just so we're clear, the vote was very clear, it was for 2014 fair. It's not for all of our fairs, it's for the 2000, and I thought we were clear when we put that out there, when this all blew up, it was for the 2014 fair. It's not for the 2015, we haven't made a decision obviously on that because at this point, we don't know enough. I mean, we got what we got to it as fast as we could. I mean, I guess we could have had a special meeting as soon as that one
Well,
came
I
out,
got the
but-
call from Roger, and then I called and got on the commissioners meeting, the last meeting in February.
March.
March, the last Friday. Then, a week and a half later is when we had our fair board meeting, and brought it up.
We didn't try and delay this, it wasn't like we tabled it or, let's delay it a couple months and see what happens. We try to deal with this as efficiently as possible.
Okay, I guess the question then posed, is there anybody gonna make a motion to turn this over or not?
Is there even enough members here to vote on it tonight? Is my only other question.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, where'd Toby go?
We
Oh,
have-
yeah, we do.
We have to be tagged by May what?
May
Yeah, May 5th.
And
So we
two
need
are
it.
already tagged, so.
I would be willing to make the motion, because I think there is some of the fair board that way, so I would like to have all the fair board members there and have an equal chance that way.
I think now you could have a good informed vote at least. And I'm not, I mean, don't get me wrong, if this is gonna help our one pig, Todd, it's not the end of the world, baby, you know. What you guys are going through,
We just need direction.
is nothing,
No, I
yeah.
understand.
But at least now you can have an informed vote and say, you know, if you think it's gonna help, that's the only way to go.
David, in defense of the Fair Board, they had all the information that you had tonight,
Yeah.
other than the
It
decision
wasn't-
that was made on Friday.
It wasn't an uninformed vote. by
They
any
had
means.
that information in front of them, read it, talked about it, the recommendation from the state vet's office. They didn't just say.
Well, that just came out, didn't it?
No.
No, right, no.
March 13th.
But that,
When they got that recommendation is when they put it on the agenda, that
but
they needed to.
we've sat here for 2 hours and got informed, real good. All of us have learned something
Right.
tonight.
Yeah.
That meeting only lasted an hour and 10 minutes.
So you're thinking that they.
No, I'm just saying that should have been something that people should have learned a lot more about before it was voted on. I don't care if it changes their vote or not. This was something that should have been educated more than what it
Okay,
was.
so if we would have done that, then that would have meant the vote would have been in May. All you would have been pissed off because all your hogs would have been tagged
Yeah.
for fair. And then would have been, oh.
Or you have a
what do we do
special
now?
meeting like we're doing right now. This is something that takes special attention.
We don't get very many people to show up to a regular meeting. You're not gonna get very many to show up to this
How
special.
many
There's
of you would
plenty
have
of them
been
here tonight.
How many of you would have been here tonight had the Fair Board already not made a decision on this?
Well, if they was gonna be
If they were gonna
people
bring
to be
it back and
educated.
inform us all on this.
Yeah, that right there, these two vets here were, and like I said, I don't care if they changed, my main reason I was so mad is I don't think an hour and 10 minutes was long enough to make such a decision that it was. But now after this and being informed, if they make the same decision, I'm comfortable with that because I feel like they've learned a lot more than what they would have reading it from a piece of paper.
Yeah, it's a lot different, like, you know, experiencing it and hearing it from people that, you know, have been around it and lived it. It's a little different. I mean, these things are informative. I mean, before we got it, I mean, you know, we've heard about storage from Holyoke and those farms down there, and we got a lot of handouts and stuff like that informing us. But it's different. You don't truly know it until you live it, but it does. Like, something like this is good. I mean,
And I could have shared a lot of knowledge about what I know, but
But
like
you
she
want
said, you
I
know,
was
she's
at
been
work,
working
so-
12 or 14 hours a day, so.
that's why he didn't come to the meeting, because I was still at work and he couldn't bring the kids, so.
And the only other thing it does prove is that you guys were willing to schedule this meeting. That's a big deal there, was instead of just doing what you did and not listen, you know, to people's concerns and just keep going on with it and just kind of, we did what we did. You actually did this, put this meeting together, had these people come in, inform everyone. That means a lot than just voting on something and just, you know, just pushing it away and it's done. We don't want to hear any more about it.
It wasn't, I can
Craig, let me ask you a question. You had a strong opinion in our direction before this.
What? I've always had the same opinion.
Before. Have you wavered any since you've heard two vets tell you something, or do you still think the same way?
Yes, I do, because that's my opinion. I can have that.
Well, I'm not saying you can't. I'm just asking whether you've changed any by what you've heard from Seaboard, what you've heard from two vets, if it's changed any of your ways.
Now, if Seaboard around us had not broke with it, then yes. If I would have learned that tonight, and it would not have broke, then yes, I would agree that this would help. But since they're broke around us, and both vets already kind of did say that it's not if, it's when everyone's going to get it, you know, that's why I'm still sticking the way I am.
But the other thing too, though, is the longer you can keep it out, the more pigs you're gonna produce, you know what I mean? Cause, like, we stayed almost a whole year with, you know, not getting it from our sister farms, and they didn't intentionally break us until the farm right there got it. I mean, cause then segregating the truck, it would have been almost impossible to keep it out, so then that's when they decided. But the longer you can keep it out, that's more pigs out the door, I mean.
And
now
having
there's
been
more
at the meeting that we made the decision, it was something that we all, the 5 of us that could vote, we really did read the literature that was out, what the memo said, we focused on, we knew it was gonna be an unpopular issue, we knew we were gonna get a lot of shit.
Well, that's why the state vet didn't do it, because they wanted to put it on you guys.
But we decided that this was the best thing
Yeah,
for
so-
our fair, and we didn't want, and you know, Dr. Gear might wanna have the virus, and he might wanna take that risk. We don't want any one of our kids having a pig taking one of these pigs home to their, we don't want anybody to take it home if we can avoid it. And, you know, it's an unpopular decision and you probably hate us, but we made the decision. It was an informed decision. It wasn't what the hell? Let's just do this. Yay, let's screw the kids. That's not our decision. That was not in our hearts. I can promise you that. We were not out here.
No, we're not saying.
I think what they're saying, Judy, is this meeting should have happened before.
But then it would have put it off.
It would have put it off another month.
That's what we have
That's
two meetings. You have boom, boom.
Yeah.
We can't get people there for one meeting. is
Well,
what
and
I'm
maybe
saying.
the vets couldn't come for this. I mean, you guys would probably have to go.
This all happened so fast, you guys. I mean, the literature that came out, the memo that came out from the state vet, this was as fast as we could have done it. I mean, it's
You know, and that's information that all of us didn't know, is that you guys didn't get it till, and that was a great question that was answered tonight because of this meeting.
This is all as fast as we could do it. Would we have liked to have had more February members there? The supers are yes, but this was all we had available to us at that April meeting that we could do. And it wasn't, it wasn't an uninformed decision. We really did talk about it, we hashed it out. The what ifs, if we don't do anything, if we do something. And we felt as the 5 that were there to vote on it, that this was the best option we had available to us.
Well, and I personally think from an outsider looking in, and I know I'm not in Sedgwick County, and part of the reason I came to the meeting was to listen to her speak and Dr. Tomky speak, because I do live in western Nebraska and northeastern Colorado, where we don't get the luxury of having a lot of hog industry around us to hear what people have gone through. I've found out what I know through show pig producers and other people that have gone through it and seen it and learned and talked to vets. My vet in Oshkosh is very close with a vet in Minnesota with one of the biggest one of the biggest deals. So that's the sole reason I came. My only thing from an outsider looking in, if you make the county fair terminal, yeah, do I think it kind of discounts the kids because the kids aren't going to get full market price for their pig and they may not have been planning on getting $1 a pound for their pig? Yes, I do. But however, at the same time, I think the biggest thing that everybody needs to sit down in the county and the fair board needs to sit down and hash out is the word terminal. I think is getting thrown around very loosely, and I've seen it seen it used at shows where it doesn't end up terminal. And there's a guy 60 miles down the road that bought the buyback, and he takes every gilt out of your county fair and puts it into his herd. And I'm sorry, I don't want to see kids get punished and then somebody else benefit from it. And so I think the word terminal needs to either be it's terminal and those trailers are as close to sealed as possible, or it's okay, it's not going to be terminal. Because really the only thing terminal does from an aspect of me or Doris or Kelly or Dr. Regier is now we can't walk into the sale at your county fair and the grand champion gilt, we just think she's a rock star, we can't run her up and buy her back. So now technically you've lost the buyer, but that's our choice. And that's your guys' choice making that decision. But I just think the word terminal, whether you make it terminal or not, I'll still be at the county fair. Dr. Regier will still be at the county fair. Doris will still be at the county fair. Kelly Richmond will still be at the county fair. I'm going to take the PED virus back to my house if I want to take the PED virus back to my house. So technically, I think the word terminal just needs to be tightened up, defined, and put down on paper what exactly it's going to take.